G'day guys, Dave Geary.
Hi guys, Daniel Hastings, MMJ Wollongong video blog for August 2022. And we've had some interesting times to say the least. We do say that a bit, I think, Dave, but real estate's always interesting. But yeah, obviously in the last few months, we've definitely had change, particularly from an interest rate point of view. What are the things that you've noted so far? What are the observations?
Well, a couple of things you need to note, guys, is that around the 2500 area, which is not just Wollongong City, but also the affiliated suburbs. Yeah, that area there still had 65 places sold over last month. Yep. So that's actually still a good result in this changing market condition as well. So, and the majority of them were apartments around the city because of the amount of density there. And the highest thing was around that $2.5 million with a house around that 2.3. So there is some still good sales out there, contrary to what they're saying in the media about the marketplace as well.
Yeah.
And we are meeting that perfect storm. This is what's changed the marketplace. So we've got the high inflation.
Yep.
We've got interest rate hikes, which are happening. And still we had our fourth one.
We just had our fourth, yep.
Yeah. The war in Ukraine does affect generally our economy, which our economy affects our real estate market as well, and that aftermarket of COVID as well. So these are the things that are affecting real estate at the moment. And one of the things we just spoke about was the reducing of the borrowing capacity of buyers.
Yeah, that is going to be a key one, isn't it? And banks are going to get more conservative and have probably tougher lending criteria for people. So maybe, in fairness, maybe some people that had pre-approvals a few months back may now not get the same deal.
Yeah.
So things like that are definitely going to be something we can't control and that we have to work around.
We saw some stats that we went through our office about someone that was looking at borrowing capacity of $1 million and the variation as the interest rates changed and what their capacity was.
Yep.
Please don't quote me to numbers, about 840 to 50,000 and bought the capacity from $1 million. So they lost $150,000 of borrowing capacity, which is a lot.
Yeah, and obviously that varies from person to person and all that sort of thing, of course, but as Dave says, don't take it as gospel. But yeah, that shows the effects that some people are experiencing right now for sure. Yeah.
And these winter chills too in the marketplaces at the moment, it's affecting, we are very seasonal at the moment, of course, and there's a lot of people sitting on their hands. There's another thing we're just talking about as well.
Yep.
But there is a note there that around the Australia, there's been about a 1.4 reduction in pricing. I don't think they really have the accurate stats at the moment. I think that needs to be a bit of a long-term through month. So I think we see the coal face is probably a little bit more than that.
It is, and you know, in fairness, we will freely acknowledge that if there was a 1.5% drop, no one would be making it. It wouldn't be making as much news. So there's certainly even other stats too, like you look at auction rates, clearance rates, and so forth too. Yeah, that's changed and so forth. The number of properties actually being listed, the number of auctions occurring in the state, for example. So yeah, well, a lot of those things are certainly much more severe. We've got to acknowledge that. The observation that we've both talked about off camera before is probably the first and second, but particularly after the second interest rate rise that happened. So that would have been in June. There was definitely people thought, okay, I'm going to just see what happens here, and there was definitely a bit of a shock factor. And we had people coming through open houses, but there wasn't a lot of urgency to act. But certainly, I know in our office, our team had a pretty good July actually, but a lot of that activity came in the latter half of the month. So probably had a 6 to 8 week scenario where people were very much sitting on their hands. But a pretty dramatic change, wasn't it, for that latter half of July? And we're looking forward. It just gave us, or gave me certainly, some comfort that the seasonal situation that you touched on before, it sets us up well into August being the last month of winter into traditionally the spring period. So I think if you're buying, it's good news because you know the extreme competitiveness is not going to be there as much now for sure. But if you're selling as well, it's workable. You know, if you have to sell at the moment, and if you're selling and you're taking less, well, probably whatever you buy is going to be taking less as well. So it does end up being very relative.
Buy and sell in the same market.
Buy and sell at the same time, you're probably not going to have too many dramatic issues.
Now, a question a lot of people are asking is like, how long is this cycle going to last?
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure that that's going to say that no one can give you 100%. We can only forecast what we see at the coal front. So what's your thoughts there, and what are the things kind of affecting it as well?
The things affecting it, obviously interest rates, as we said, the conservative banking lending, dwelling supply is actually not in excess at the moment. It is still low, and I think that's a saving grace, I should say, too, from a values perspective as well. Migration is starting to happen already, and of course the base of the economy, certainly compared to the rest of the world, is still
very strong.
Very strong. So
this is stuff that would protect us a little bit more.
They will lessen the hit for sure, and particularly that supply element for me. I'd be more concerned if we had a lot of people in financial stress needing to sell, that creating an oversupply in the market. I'd be much more concerned if that was the case, and that is far from the case.
And banks as well, and banks are being a bit more conservative on their lending criteria as well.
Yeah.
That they're not giving the money. And so other countries in the world, we had issues before in their global GFC, sorry, and that was of course in America why their lending criteria.
Lesser restrictions on their
of course, and in Australia it's very, very strict. So
that's where the overly strict nature of them is. That's where it's been a benefit for us.
So my gut feeling is anyway that the rest of the year is a seal on what we're seeing right now.
Yep.
And then I think by the time everyone adjusts and gets back to normal
over
life,
the shock a bit,
and over the shock of everything's happening in the world, it'll probably go back to a normal
balanced
real estate market. Yeah, and that's forecast for 23.
I think so, and I think there's still a lot to be positive about. You know, sadly, you've got the media that tends to hype the negative a lot more than the positive, quite frankly. But look, we're certainly excited about what we saw at the end of July. We're looking forward to August. We're particularly looking forward to the traditional spring period when things start warming up. So does the buyer activity, etc. So, no, really, look, I think there's a lot to be positive about, and something that can be very workable still. It's not drastic times.
Everyone's got to live somewhere, don't they?
Life goes on. Everyone needs a dwelling.
They do.
Exactly.
All right, guys, thank you for your time, and we'll give you an update on the next month.
Look forward to seeing you then.
See you all.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.